up everybody, MXF1 here and welcome back to another video here on my channel. Today we look at a preview for the Austrian Grand Prix, the 2020 Austrian Grand Prix. Now of course with the news that is going around at the minute with all the awful pandemic stories, the 2020 season is having to go through massive changes to cope with the recent pandemic. Now, F1 has decided to start at the Red Bull Ring in Austria. The track is very good. It is a 4.326 kilometre track with plenty of opportunities for overtaking, 3 DRS zones, 71 laps I believe, and the lap record at Austria is held by Michael Schumacher from 2003. The fastest lap was from Valtteri Bottas in 2018's Q3 qualifying session, with a 1 minute 3.130, so you can already tell it is one of the fastest laps on the calendar. Top speed is around 203 miles per hour. It's a very short distance from turn 1 to the full throttle section after that. 79% of the lap is full throttle in fact. The longest flat-out section is 868 metres. That's very, very lengthy for a track like Austria, which will allow plenty of overtaking opportunities. The downforce level is again very low because you don't need that much downforce. The first three sections of the track, the first sector, is 2 straights and a corner pretty much, so it is it's not too bad. It's quite a nice track in terms of gear changes. There's only 32 gear changes a lap. The pit window is one of the shortest pits on the calendar. In terms of strategy, let's have a look as to the recommended. So this is a website from this is from ESPN. It suggests that it's a one-stop race from the softest C4 compound tyres, I believe is the soft tyre, I think. Anyway, it's soft to medium tyres with a change around lap 20, depending on how long the drivers can take those soft tyres. Although, saying that, there is quite an easy way of doing a two-stop around here. Of course, the first corner now is nicknamed after the late great Niki Lauda, who won the Grand Prix quite a few times. However, he's actually, I don't know how many times he's successfully won a championship after winning the Austrian Grand Prix. I think it's quite low. Ferrari and McLaren are the top 2 winning constructors around this circuit, and to be honest, I don't expect McLaren to be up. Well, I mean, they might be up there in the higher points. We'll get onto them later on in the video, but I think Ferrari, they have a reasonable chance of getting another victory on that. Again, we'll speak about Ferrari. The track has undergone quite a few layouts, from its Zeltweg, is that how you pronounce it, airfield, used from 1963 to 1968, and then of course it has undergone a few changes recently with turn 1 and 2. That it used to be, I think it used to be a chicane, which is quite interesting. As for the recent winners, then, very much dominated in recent years by the Red Bull driver of Max Verstappen. Before Verstappen, it was Rosberg did very well there. It wasn't held between 2004 and 2013. Schumacher has done well there in the past. David Coulthard has picked up a few wins, but the big winner around here is Alain Prost, who has picked up 3 victories, an incredible 3 victories around the circuit. So he is certainly the man to topple here. Max Verstappen can equal his record this weekend for the most victories around the circuit. I think the only other... No, I don't think Lewis Hamilton can even. Hamilton's only got 1 victory around the circuit. But then, like I said, most of the time when he was at McLaren, it wasn't actually held there. So that is a fairly interesting. Right, let's move on to the teams then. Going into Austria, you've got to say it's between 2 teams really. Mercedes certainly look like they've sorted out the issues that they had last season. They were fairly poor. It was their only track that they struggled with. I think there was issues with their cooling, which meant that, of course, they couldn't maximise the full potential out of the car. And yeah, Max Verstappen, of course, went to victory, overtaking Leclerc on the final lap of the race, which of course caused quite a lot of controversy. Verstappen actually didn't have a great start last year. He was second. I think Hamilton had a grid penalty. So he got promoted to second and actually took a relatively poor start to actually kind of kick him into gear. And yeah, he ended up overtaking Charles Leclerc on the final lap of the race to win the Austrian Grand Prix for the 2nd time in his career. Of course, the year before he also won it. I believe that year was even more controversial because I think there was something that happened between him and Sebastian Vettel. So onto the drivers for Mercedes. Valtteri Bottas has quite a good record around Austria. It's one of those tracks where he is quite a lot better than Lewis Hamilton. It's one of those tracks where last year he beat him in the race, even though, like I was talking about, Mercedes had cooling issues. I think, yeah, he finished on the podium last year, Valtteri Bottas, and I think he's probably the favourite, to be honest. I never thought I'd say that, but Bottas is the favourite, I think, for this race, just with his success at the track. But you never know. And with a 7-time world champion of Lewis Hamilton, 6-time world champion of Lewis Hamilton, looking for his 7th, right behind him, I think it would be quite a mistake to underestimate Lewis Hamilton. Leclerc got pole there last year in his Ferrari. We'll move on to Ferrari while we're on about it. Big news coming in over the recent months that Sebastian Vettel will be leaving Ferrari at the end of the season. Whether it is for another team, whether he's having a year off the sport, whether it's a complete retirement, nobody knows at the minute apart from Sebastian. So that will be interesting to see how that develops. Now, the only seat really available at the minute, I mean, there are a few teams at the back like Williams and Haas where we're not quite sure what they're going to do. You would imagine, unless George Russell gets promoted to Mercedes because Bottas is going, or Hamilton even. I mean, he might pull the plug and so, but I very much doubt he will. Now Ferrari have got a full lineup, so unless Russell is picked up by Mercedes, really it's only Haas and Renault that he can potentially go to. Of course, Daniel Ricciardo is moving to McLaren from Renault, so I think that's a good move. It's kind of, at the minute, it's seen as a sideways move potentially, but the certain progression of the Racing Point in the midfield is certainly a worry, I think, for Ricciardo, especially as they were so quick in testing that they might even be for testing Ferrari this season, so that would be interesting to see. As for Red Bull, they come into this, of course, Verstappen winning the last 2 years. Albon is a bit of an interesting one. He really needs to have a good season, but so does Verstappen. In a way, they both need good seasons. It's a real opportunity for Red Bull this year to win their first championship since 2013. 7 years gap now that they have had since their last championship, and if it's going to be through anyone, I think it will be through Max Verstappen. No offence to Albon, but based off the pace he carried through the end of last year, I mean, apart from a potential podium he could have had at Brazil, that was really all he could have had. I mean, it was quite a fifth or sixth usually that appeared for Alex Albon. But the thing is, with Albon, he was, in comparison to Gasly, who started the season, he was consistent with where he finished, and he wasn't battling the McLarens. He was quite far ahead of those McLarens, and some races challenging the likes of maybe Bottas or Vettel. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be an interesting one for Red Bull. I think most of their charge is going to be through Max Verstappen. However, who knows? Who knows with Red Bull? They're a bit of an unknown entity. So Ferrari, of course, we've spoken about Vettel leaving for Carlos Sainz being promoted. Now let's move on to Sainz's current team, McLaren. McLaren, an interesting one. They've almost had a bit of an upgrade out of it all, because Sainz going to Ferrari, but they've got in is he 7-time race winner, Daniel Ricciardo, who, like I say, knows how to win a race. He has done it very nicely on a few occasions. One that comes to mind was China 2018, where he came in under the safety car. Him and Verstappen did. The difference was, so Verstappen, I believe, was ahead at this point. They both came in, changed the tyres. Ricciardo then was on a newer, fresher compound under the safety car. Safety car went away. Verstappen then crashed into Vettel at the hairpin, which then meant, of course, the leading driver was Daniel Ricciardo for Red Bull, and I believe he literally had Raikkonen, Vettel and Bottas between him and the race win, and his move on Bottas was absolutely brilliant. So, like I say, he knows how to win the races, and he's going to have a rookie, not such a rookie teammate, but a younger driver of Lando Norris alongside of him for next year. That'll be interesting to see, because of course Sainz is it's almost as if Sainz, whether he had an incredibly good year at McLaren because of the surroundings last year, or whether the cars he was in before he didn't get the performance or whatever, he wasn't great against Hulkenberg, and he He was very good against Kvyat, and that was the difference really that got him promoted to Renault. But yeah, I think Sainz it kind of deserves that opportunity at a big team. But the thing is, Norris is a big 2 years for Lando Norris now, because he's pretty much confirmed for next year as well. If Norris can have a better year, he got massively hit by reliability issues last year. If Norris can have a better year this year, I would expect him to be very close to Sainz at the top of the midfield. Potentially, though, you could say that Perez, I think, at the minute in the Racing Point will be there. Ricciardo in the Renault, I reckon, will be there. Ocon in the Renault will be up there as well. You could even say potentially an AlphaTauri will be there in either Gasly or Kvyat. The midfield is literally the closest I think it's ever been. There's literally 1 or 2 tenths between Racing Point and AlphaTauri. But you could even potentially say Haas aren't too far off the back of that, and Alfa Romeo. Let's move on then from McLaren to Renault. Of course, they already know that Ricciardo is leaving. Ocon will be staying for next year because he's contracted to next year. The replacement for Ricciardo will be interesting. Will they go and spend the big bucks on someone like Fernando Alonso or Vettel, or will they hope that their young driver academy can pull through? Now, I think Lundgaard is a bit too early for him. He's only just been promoted to Formula 2, and no one knows how he's going to perform in Formula 2. Admittedly, Verstappen didn't race in Formula 2, but Red Bull took a chance and it paid off. The other option they've got is Guang Huzhou, the Chinese driver. Now, of course, I think he's got quite a lot of sponsorship behind him as well, which to Renault is massively appealing. If Renault can get in a lot of sponsorship money, they will fly up the grid, I think. So that will be interesting to see how that pays off. So that's an option for the future for Renault. Other than that, really, Racing Point look incredibly good. I think they've said I can't remember his surname, Uzmar or whatever his name is his first name. Said that it was one of the best cars they've ever had come out of the factory, and I think for once this is a positive view coming out of Racing Point, that they can literally push for podiums. Who knows? They could get podiums this year. My main issue with Racing Point in terms of constructors wise is Lance Stroll. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't absolutely despise him. He has bought his way into the sport, but it's certainly interesting to see how Stroll will do in a better car, because he's not been given a very spectacular car, has he really? So it will be interesting to see how he gets on. But they've certainly got a good lead driver in Sergio Perez, and he knows how to extract the best out of his cars. Apart from his stint at McLaren, even his stint at McLaren, he was against Jenson Button, who won it in 2009. Apart from that, he has had a very, very good career, and Perez is one of those where he's always kind of been around there. He's had quite a few podiums actually as well. Most noticeably, or I think most recently, I think it was Baku 2017. I think Baku 2017 where he got on the podium. No, it must have been 2016. Yeah, I think it was 2016 because Hamilton had an incident on the final lap or something. Anyway, he's very successful, and I think Racing Point are in for a really good year. AlphaTauri, on the other hand, look to have maybe stepped backwards. They have got Pierre Gasly, who had a difficult stint at Red Bull at the start of last year, but actually I think he improved quite significantly towards the end of the year. And they've got Danny Kvyat, who I think will leave, or I reckon he will leave Toro Rosso at the end of the year. Who knows who they're going to replace him with, because I've lost track of the Red Bull Youthful Academy. But yeah, AlphaTauri, a bit of an unknown, really. Speaking of unknowns, another Alfa Romeo. Kimi Raikkonen, I think, will leave this season as well at the end of the year. Giovinazzi's a bit of an unknown as well. He needs a good year, because if he has a good year, if Sainz, for example, struggles next year, Ferrari might have a look at him. I don't know. I don't know what's going on in Ferrari's mind at the minute. So yeah, it's not a lot to speak about for Alfa Romeo. Haas have a stable car that they actually know how it works. However, they are the back of the midfield, and you could potentially say they're on par with Williams, who have stepped up massively. I mean, the lap comparison of George Russell in testing this year to their actual qualifying lap, it was about a second faster than his lap last year. So significant gains for Williams. Latifi's an unknown. I think Grosjean and Magnussen at Haas have just very inconsistent, especially Grosjean. Who knows what comes next with those two. So that'll be weird to see. But I think it's going to be a very, very interesting Austrian Grand Prix. And if Bottas can potentially get something over Hamilton here, or Verstappen, I think it's going to be a brilliant Grand Prix to watch. So, if you have enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe, and I hope you are all doing okay, and hopefully this will shine a light, because I am very excited. It's been 7 months without racing, so yeah, I'm looking forward to the Austrian Grand Prix, and the fact it's back to back to back is going to be brilliant. Don't get me wrong, I think Hungary's a bit of a dead circuit, but it's a race at the end of the day. I'm not going to moan about it. And then Silverstone doubleheader, Catalonia, then Spa, and then Italy. 8 great races in store, no matter on the outcome of it for the driver. I'm going to make my predictions for this race. I think pole position will be Max Verstappen. I think Max will get pole. As for the winner, I think it'll be close, but I think it's going to be a 3-way shootout between Verstappen, Bottas, and Hamilton. Ferrari, I don't know what's going to go on with them. I'm going to go for Hamilton to win, just because I think Mercedes mostly have better race pace around the circuit. Verstappen second, Bottas third. And like I say, it all depends on Albon and the speed of that Ferrari. I think there are upgrades coming, but the other 3 positions in those are a bit unknown. Vettel will have something to prove if he wants to stay in Formula 1. Leclerc will want to prove that Ferrari made the right decision in keeping him and not Vettel. Albon will want to prove that Red Bull shouldn't drop him. So, yeah, and then the midfield is impossible to call because Racing Point are looking incredibly good. McLaren are looking good. Renault are looking good. That's incredible. I think it's been the closest it's been in years. But yeah, thank you for watching this video, and I hope you all enjoy the race. So yeah.